from 12 to about 23, life was tough. Well, being a young person living with HIV, it was in that age range that I got to discover my HIV status. So there was a lot of stigma, there was a lot of self-denial, there was a lot of anger, hatred. I did not like my mom. I didn't like my sisters, my brothers, because it was after that I realized I am the only one who is positive. For them, they are negative. In my early years of primary, we used to define people living with HIV as walking dead. So when I realized I am a walking dead, I'm like, why would I love these people? They've already made me die. You realize. Yes, so I eventually started rejecting my medication, okay, because of anger.
So a very good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Denis If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Denis UG. Now today we are joined by a very young yet very inspiring lady. Her name is Michelle, but she's gonna tell us all her real name, right? Plus the botanical one. Michelle has an inspiring story, one of a kind story that she has come out. She's bold, really. That's being bold, because not everybody comes out to speak. She's championing, for those that are actually young people living with HIV/AIDS. And so today we wanted to get her story. When did she actually realize that she actually has HIV/AIDS, and how did she feel, among many other things? You're welcome.
Good morning, Denis.
Good morning, Michelle. How are you?
Pleasure to finally meet you.
You mean you had heard about me?
I had actually watched some of your videos.
That's beautiful. So I'm a celeb, you guys. Don't kunyoma me.
Exactly.
First of all, take us through. Who is Michelle?
Well, Michelle is a 25-year-old Ugandan. Many people actually do not believe I am 25.
Okay. What do they think you are? How old do they think you are?
18.
Okay.
17. So I let them believe what they want to believe.
Okay, you're 25.
Yes.
How has life been till today?
Life before 12 years, life was easy. Yeah, but from 12 to about 23, life was tough.
How tough was it?
Well, being a young person living with HIV, it was in that age range that I got to discover my HIV status. So there was a lot of stigma, there was a lot of self-denial, there was a lot of anger, hatred. Yeah, so that is how tough life was.
So first of all, take us through where are you born, where is your mother, your father, among many other things?
Well, my mom is in Tororo, because I grew up in Tororo. Yes. My dad lives here in Kampala, in Luzira.
Okay.
Yes.
How many children are you at home?
We were 4, but 1 is late. Yeah, so we are 3, 2 girls, 1 boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do all your other siblings have?
No, unfortunately, I'm the only one.
Okay.
Yes. So it's just my parents and I.
You're the last born?
Yes.
So the other ones were the first borns?
Yes.
Could somebody say that maybe by the time they gave birth to the other children, they hadn't gotten the virus yet?
My mom was negative. Actually, they were both negative at the time. So before I was born is where the change happened, and that is how I...
Oh, so that's when they actually contracted the virus,
Exactly.
and that's when they conceived you?
Exactly.
So while growing up, the fact that your other siblings weren't in the same state as you, how did they feel?
Well, I think they didn't feel anything negative. They were very, very loving, because they welcomed me, they tolerated me. They actually didn't make me feel that. Exactly.
Okay.
I was loved. Yeah, so it wasn't a problem.
Okay. So when do you actually get to know? Because even then, for them, they didn't know. So when do you come to know?
Well, for them, I really don't know when they got to know. But for me, it really took me a while, because in around 2002, I think that's when my health started deteriorating. Because I first fell sick of chicken pox. Yeah, those are the scars. And then it is after that I started realizing I was going to hospital every now and then. And when I would keep asking my parents, they would tell me it's malaria. It was actually my mom, because my dad was a never around person. Yeah, so I would keep asking her, why are we going to hospital? She would tell me, no, nothing, just malaria. So it is until sometime early in 2003, I was about 8 years, that I was picked from school. And then they told me we are going to hospital, but I didn't feel sick. So unfortunately, we didn't go to the usual hospital, because we usually used to go to main hospitals. But then this time we're taken to Tasso. So I remember asking her, why Tasso? Like, she told me, no. There's some services that are offered the other side are here, so it's okay. So that is when the suspicions began. But of course, I was still young. Yeah, so a few months later, we were referred to Mbale. That was JCRS in Mbale. It's a branch from Mbale Regional Referral. Joint Clinical Research, yes. They were having a program there. So that is when my medication began. It was 23rd September 2003. Yes. So I started medication in 2003, and we used to keep going to Mbale. Now, at that time, me, I was excited about going to Mbale. When we would wake up in the morning and they're like, today we are going. I know I'm going to miss school, I'm going to Mbale. Yeah, so in 2004, yeah, a program was introduced at the facility whereby young people, young children, like from 10 to about 18 years, we used to have workshops at the facility. Yeah, so in one of those workshops we used to go for, it used to be usually Saturdays. Yeah, in some of those workshops they would teach us. But of course, at that time, I was too young, like to even sit and listen to what the facilitators were saying. That wasn't my thing. But people used to keep learning, and of course, at the facility, they used to speak Uganda. So that time, I wasn't well conversant with it. So I didn't understand what they were saying. Somewhere in 2005, we were going to the facility with her. And then I decided to read every signpost. So that is when the bitterness began. I remember entering and I was crying that day, and everyone was asking me what is wrong, and I didn't want to talk to anyone. So I happened to hear one of the nurses counseling a patient that day, and that's when I started hearing words like ARVs, HIV, and I'm like, oh, so all the peace. So that is where everything began from.
The fact that your mother, your father didn't open up to you in the beginning and never told you that, hey, look, this is the situation at hand. How did you feel, and how did you react, and how did you treat them?
It made me so angry. I actually, from that day onwards, I hated my family. I was so bitter with everybody. But unfortunately, I failed to find that bitterness with my dad. Somehow I decided to get close to him. Yes. So I did not like my mom. I didn't like my sisters, my brothers, because it was after that that I realized I am the only one who is positive. For them, they are negative. Yes. So that is where the entire hatred thing began from. Yes. Yeah.
Did you eventually, forgive her?
It took time. It took years. It really took years, because I hadn't yet accepted then. It was a journey for me to acceptance, and my journey to acceptance was in 2018, 2019. Yes. Because when I realized that...
From 2012, rather from 2003 to 4 until 2012, rather until 2018, 2019, that's when you actually accept that it is this, I'm going to... Wow, it took you that long. Why?
About 15 years. Yes. Because you realize in school, in my early years of primary, we used to define people living with HIV as walking dead. So when I realized I am a walking dead, I'm like, why would I love these people? They've already made me die. You realize. Yes, so I eventually started rejecting my medication. Okay, because of anger. Yeah, so I didn't like my family, I didn't like my medication, and I didn't like myself. Yes. So I was on and off medication. Today I take, tomorrow I'm not taking. I can go off for a week, then I come back. So my viral load happened to drop because there is what you call first line. First line is when you're really doing well. Second line, you're faring. Third line, you're in a bad state. So my viral load dropped from first line to second line. And I didn't care. I didn't want to know. They put me in hours and hours of counseling and it just wasn't working. So somewhere in 2017, yes, I remember that was now a period, I think I was in campus. I remember going off medication for 9 months. Yes.
Deliberately?
Yes, it was deliberate.
You did it deliberately?
Yes.
What was the motive behind it?
Well, I remember I was planning to join campus earlier on. So my plan was to join YMCA. So I asked for a transfer from Bali to Naguru. So Naguru is quite, like, there are so many people. When you go there very early in the morning, you leave in the afternoon. So when I failed to join YMCA and went back to Mbale, I still had to keep coming to Naguru monthly. So somehow it's like, but why go there, sit for that long and then and yet I'm not going to take the medication after 1 month, my containers. So I just stopped. It was until after like 9 months that I was like, like within me I was like, maybe I need to get back to medication, maybe. So I got back to my facility in Bali, and there was a doctor who had been there for quite some time, from the time I joined. Yes. So I went and spoke to him and told him the entire story, what happened, how I got a transfer. And somehow they helped me get back on medication. They reopened my file. And that is again how I was enrolled. But even after being re-enrolled, I was still not taking medication because I just went back there for purposes of, formality. Yeah, so somewhere in around June 2017, now my health started deteriorating. I started getting typhoid, malaria. I was always in hospital after every 2 weeks. Until one time I got so down, I lost a lot of blood. And I first left school, went back home to Tororo. And when going to hospital, I was admitted. Yes. So they tried looking for blood. There was no blood. I was again referred back to Mbale, and that was how I got blood. So it took me about like 2 weeks, like for that whole hospital process. Yeah, and somehow after coming out of that thing, I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to start taking medication, because if I was about to die here, I don't want to die. But I believe still that wasn't a landing point for me, because even after that, I came out. I started taking medication fine, but still somewhere along the way, I again dropped. So again, around January 2018, that same thing came back. I remember again, now that time I was in Kampala here because I was working. So I remember falling so sick again. That time I couldn't even enter a taxi. Yes, it was so hard to lift my leg in a taxi. So I was again taken back home, put on various types of treatment. That time the good thing was I didn't end up in hospital. But still it was so bad. Yes.
Let's talk about being in school. How far did you go in terms of school?
Well, school I reached up to university.
And how was life, growing up in, rather going to school while young, maybe primary and secondary? Because university, well, people are a bit understanding.
Yes. So primary was okay. I think because I was in the school. Now, secondary, I entered boarding, and it was tough. The funny thing was, some of the friends I knew, like those who had come from home with me, actually knew about my status before I did, or before I actually accepted that I did. So some of them who were really not genuine actually used that against me in school. It was really tough, because you would just happen to hear, hey, this one is saying this about you, hey, Michelle, they're saying you're positive, hey, Michelle, that medication did. So it was really, really tough growing up, and sometimes people isolated me, you know. I was, okay, naturally, I am a noisy person, I love having people around me, but amidst that, it was also very tough. I really didn't have people I called close friends because everybody had something to say about me because I was positive. Yes, so it was very tough.
That put you down.
Of course, it put me really down. It lowered my grades. Yeah, I was in girls for senior and senior 2, but because of that pressure, I happened to fail and I was disqualified. So senior 3 and senior 4 were also very hard because still, not only was I getting the stigma from out, but there was also that self-stigma. And self-stigma, I think, is really the worst. Yeah, so there was that self-stigma that I don't really think it made any big difference from where I was. So my grades were still low, but I completed senior 4. So A-level, I decided to go to a day school, you know, where I couldn't receive a lot of pressure from. And I think it was quite easy because I did A-level well and I passed. Yes.
As a person, as a young girl, there are times when you feel like, yes, I think I'm grown up and I need a man in my life.
True.
Have you ever thought about that?
Well,
and is it even possible?
It is possible. It is possible.
Because for us, we used to think, okay, not even used to think, but there used to be a lot of stigma. A lot of people say this about that. You see, when you're walking dead, you have nothing in life. Like you're just living and preparing to die.
Exactly.
Is that the same today?
No.
What is it that we've missed?
Well, earlier on, yes, that was the mentality. Because when I had just discovered I was positive, one of the fears was I will not get married. Yes. So, and that was the mentality as time kept going. But yeah, I've been in a few relationships before. But what has really been killing all of them was self-stigma. And before I discovered it, like, I never lasted in relationships. But after I got to realize and accept who I really was, I think I've first, like, for a long time now, I've not really been in a relationship, so I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you were in relationships before?
Yes, before I was.
So those people that you were dating, were they also positive or negative?
They were negative.
And you opened up to them?
No. Now I couldn't open up to them because I hadn't opened up to myself.
Okay.
Yes. So
did you ever have sex with them?
No.
Okay. It was just a non-romantic relationship.
You can call it that because I have grown up a believer. So
sex before marriage is a sin.
Those things. Those things.
So I would say you're still a virgin.
Exactly.
Okay. When do you hope to break it? Sorry, just for the camera.
I don't know, but
you have hopes of getting married.
Exactly. You know, there is that fear. In as much as I have accepted, you know, there is that fear of somebody may use you and then dump you because you're positive. So in as much as I have accepted myself, there is still that.
Okay.
Yeah. But
so are you looking at getting married to a positive or a negative person? Because the two are a bit different. One is you'd get a negative person and that is okay with it, and then you say, okay, since you are also negative, we could see how this is workable. But also when you get a negative person and you talk to them and then see if it's also possible. Is that something you're looking forward to?
I don't think I will set a standard that I'm looking for positive person, I'm looking for negative.
Anybody that comes around.
Anybody that comes around.
But you should make sure you open up to a person that is negative.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That is.
So what happens when you open up to somebody and tell them, you see, you're negative and me, I'm positive, and then they insist they don't believe you?
I think that is the time to go, like, to see my counselors or my doctors. If you really do not believe me, that is the point where I take you to see my head.
And don't you think opening up to them will make them leave you?
That is the fear I still have up to today, and that is the fear many young people still have to date. In relationships, opening up to your partner. Yes. So it's something we as young people are still trying to deal with, but yeah.
Okay. So, I usually want people to give people advice. I mean, a lot of us young people who are still negative are doing quite a lot. What are those mistakes that we are doing that you think could lead us into contracting the disease?
Okay, you really have to know that when somebody is taking their medication well, it is very hard to look at somebody and tell this is HIV positive. You know, it's different from then where you would look at somebody and say, oh, Honalina Serim. Nowadays, no, they are everywhere amongst us. Yeah, so people have a tendency of looking and judging. Many young, I've shared my story before, and people do not believe. They say, Michelle, you don't look positive. You realize. So one mistake people who are negative make is looking and judging. There is a slogan some of my young people friends came up with, is that do not test my HIV status with your eyes. Yeah. So it's not about looking and judging. It is about doing the blood test.
The actual blood test.
Yes.
Okay. Just like we usually ask, what are your future plans? Do you have some? What were your goals while growing up? Actually, let's start from there.
Well,
what did you want to become in future? Now that we are almost approaching the future.
My dreams kept changing.
Okay.
I think as I got to discover that how the life is, yes. Because when I was young, like every other person, I wanted to be a doctor. But then I reached secondary school and I realized medicine is not for me. And then I changed. In around senior 4, I wanted to do land survey. But then again, somehow I realized there was physics inside there, and I said no. Yeah, and then I wanted to work in the tourism industry, but somehow I didn't make it. So I ended up doing IT. Yes. But somehow I couldn't fulfill it because I ended up not sitting for my final examinations at the university. So I didn't graduate, and therefore I can't pursue.
Okay.
Yes.
You are the dreams.
Yes.
But where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I look at myself inspiring a number of young people on bigger platforms. Yes. I see myself, going places and talking to people, encouraging them. Yeah.
Okay. My last one, maybe. What is your advice to young people or anybody out there watching us right now?
Well, like we usually say, get tested. For those who are negative, for those who are positive, take medication, as in it doesn't kill. Yes. Some people complain the tabs are big. It's okay. Just take them. Yes. And then for those who are living in denial, I think it is time to accept your status. Maybe before that, a few weeks ago, I shared my story. I keep sharing different parts of the story. And I told different people, if you have any questions, hit me up in my inbox and let's talk. And I found a number of people responding, and they're like, hey Michelle, I'm positive, I have a baby, the baby has just tested positive, and now my partner has realized and he has gone. Another is saying, oh, I'm positive, and I'm fearing to tell people because I'll be rejected. So I really don't think it's necessary. If you're positive, come out and tell the world. If they want to reject you, that is fine. If they do not want to reject you, if they don't want, it's still okay. So all you have to do is, if you're willing to come out and disclose your status, please come out. I usually tell people the first step to healing is talking about it. Exactly.
Wow, that is an inspiring story. If you're not inspired, then you have a problem. But I'm sure most of you have been inspired. Please let us not take the testing within our eyes. Let's seek the proper blood testing so that we can be sure the persons we are actually going to sleep with, the persons we're going to entangle with. But also let us understand the way how things operate. If you're married, please stay faithful to one partner. Get off the sexual network and actually live a good life. If you must have sex, if you're young or even older, please ensure that you use a condom, because we are trying to see how we can reduce HIV positive, at least to 0%. Lately, or right now, as a country, we stand at about 6%. That's quite huge as a country. But we believe that with all these measures that government has put in place, but also with different initiatives like the one Michelle has talked about, and other people, Gloria, Vivian, the kind of work they are doing will help us kind of curb the spread. The idea is we reduce on the infections or the number of people getting infected on a daily. That's the target. But also those that are living with it, how healthy are they living it with it? That is the kind of movement that we are trying to preach to the different people in the country. My name is Denis Duke Wonyala. Thank you so much for watching us. Please follow us on Instagram at Denis Duke UG. Behind the camera is, of course, Fiona. One day she'll be in front of the camera interviewing different people so that you can get to know her. For now, it's a goodbye. Thank you so much for watching us.